Welcome to this week's Network Roundtable. I'm Dennis Deuce, and yes, Tim Longwell, we actually were making fun of you in the green room because we were not going to start late, and we started on Deuce time, so there you go. You got the last laugh, my friend. All right, this week we're talking about letting go, and Stephanie and I discussed the need to talk about this subject just close to Christmas because, well, all of you entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, you're just all too high strung. I can say this because I am. And it's really important, especially this time of year, to let go, take care of yourselves, love all over your family. Speaking of loving all over someone, we're going to go to our special way of introducing people. And lunch just arrived, in case you're wondering. Yeah, pizza today. I'll eat later. Anyway, sorry. Off track, and we're only a minute into the show. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to go with Robin. Robin, tell us why you love Lisa. And when she's done, Lisa, go ahead and tell us why Robin is amazing. I do just want to point out, I think this is the best looking studio I've ever seen on a Hangout on Air. This looks like television to me. So, yeah, Lisa, I was white boxed on you, Lisa, when I was saying that. Yeah. Makes mine just look like a carnival. Anyway, Robin.
So mine doesn't look like, okay. Whatever.
Yours looks like a comfy home I want to go snuggle down in. Lisa looks like she's in a TV studio.
I know. She looks like a superstar, which she is. All right. What I love about Lisa. I met Lisa in a Hangout training about a year ago, and I noticed that she had the courage to step right into giving a show from the get-go, and I so admire when someone says, I am just going to learn by doing, and steps into it, and immediately she was rocking it with her Power of Practice show. That's where I met Lisa, and over just the past few months, we've gotten to know each other better as she was a guest speaker on a show that I did with Susan Westbrook called the 5 Tibetans Yoga Workshop. Lisa was our intro speaker, and it was about practice. So I had watched her practice and totally walk her talk through this probably 9 months, 6 months or 9 months of time, and I just kept seeing this emerging authenticity that when I watched Lisa, it would wake up this authenticity in me. So that's what I really like. I like to see what happens between people. That's one person sparks another. We all do that. We're for each other. We activate each other. And Lisa has been kind of a hero for me, someone to watch and follow as she takes more and more steps forward into her calling. So we recently connected in a hurl, and boy, was that awesome to actually be face-to-face with her. There's something about Lisa that I'm very excited about. I'm very excited to get to know her better. So I guess mainly I'm pleased to know this exuberant, lively force on the planet that I get to actually hopefully partner with in some ways going forward. So I just admire you, Lisa, for all of those qualities.
Oh, thank you, Robin. That was such a beautiful introduction. I feel so humbled by that introduction. So thank you so much. And like Robin said, we met about a year ago, but it wasn't until just this summer that we actually connected. And remember, Robin, you actually private messaged me in Google Plus for us to connect by phone, and then when we connected by phone, you were actually rooming. You were at an event rooming with another woman who I was in another program with, just by synchronicity. And I think that that's how it works, and I feel like Robin is one of my spiritual kindred tribe mates. We like she said, not only did we connect instantly when we talked on the phone, but then when we finally saw each other, we're like, wait a minute, we're like the same height. I was wondering how tall you were, and we look like we're sort of built the same and have the same height, and like we could be like sisters or something. You know? And it was like
Must be sisters.
like 2 hours went by. I gotta go pick up Lainey, my daughter. So it's like every time Robin and I have the opportunity to connect, it's like at least a 2-hour connection. It's just how it is. Like the time flies by. So I feel so grateful, Robin, that you live close to me, and who would have known that you would meet such a great friend via Google Plus who lives in the same vicinity as you, and we share a lot of the same life path and life passions. So bizarre things too, like where we live and stuff like that. So I'm just so stoked to have Robin here side by side with me and sharing a hangout in a different capacity than we did the first time that you were hosting for the 5 Tibetans workshop. So yay, I'm excited to be here.
Thanks.
All right. So I'm noticing here, and Lisa, this is for you, that everything seems to have worked out. So it looks like I'm going left and you're going right. Is that right? No, that. Which one's wrong? Me?
It's the other right. There you go. There you go.
Here.
Now Lisa's good. Now you're good.
I'm good? All right. Oh, was I supposed to start? Okay.
Lisa's muted.
Oh, Lisa, you're muted.
Unmute, Lisa.
Gotta love the mute. All right, ready, Dennis?
I'm ready. Are you ready? This will be fun.
Okay, letting
Go.
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 We tried.
We tried. That was an electric
Anyone
company
who grew
joke.
up
If
in
you
the
didn't catch
70s
it.
and watched Electric Company will know what that was.
Yeah, that was an electric company joke.
Bravo.
Okay, so before we jump right into the show, I want to actually, we've got a couple of people in the audience that need to learn a little bit about next season, and I thought it would be a good idea, since we've only got 2 more episodes in this season, to touch a little bit on changes, because, you know, Network Roundtable wouldn't be Network Roundtable without changes from season to season. So, what I wanted to, well, oh, Stephanie. Stephanie, do you want to start this, or do you want me to jump in and explain first thoughts on how we're changing things up for next season?
Well, why don't you start, and then we can talk about, we can kind of flesh out all the different ideas, because anyone who knows us knows that Dennis and I, when we get together, have plenty of ideas, and I'm usually the one saying, wait. Let's try to rein it in.
Yeah. So here's the thing. We wanted to create a bit more of a team or a community around Network Roundtable. So instead of Stephanie being my permanent sidekick, what we've done is we've reached out to a number of past superheroes and sidekicks who are on the show that really resonated with what we are all about here on Network Roundtable. And they don't even know yet exactly what it is that they've signed up to do. They've just all said that they're in and they're willing to sign up and do something. So this is kind of a quick explanation of the thoughts for next season. Basic idea is that we're going to be doing, the whole season is going to be on core values. And so we're going to pick a bunch of core values as words like we did this season. And then from the team that we've created, we'll have either 1 or 2 co-hosts each week along with me that resonate with the words. And then once the co-hosts have resonated with the words and we've set that schedule out, then we'll do the same thing we've done in the past, pick a superhero and let the superhero pick the sidekick. But the difference will be I'm not going to ever be picking the superheroes. The person who is the co-host that resonates with the word will then pick the person that resonates most with that word for them. So it's going to be an interesting trickle down, and there's going to be a lot of change from week to week. Some of the people that are on the team so far, and we'd be happy to take more. If anyone's watching and really resonates with the ethereal business practices we're trying to push forward and wants to be on the team, we're not exclusive here. But just to shout out, Elaine Nieberding is on, Zara Altair, Nora Whalen, Stephanie still. Let's see, who else is in this team? Kristen Drysdale. Stephanie, who else is in that group?
Well, there's plenty of people from this season. I think that we extended the invitation to most everybody who was on this season.
Yeah.
And the goal is also to be true to the notion of Network Roundtable, right? The idea of getting new ideas in and having different conversations, I think is an important part of what's going to happen as well, because ultimately, the show is designed to help people connect the dots between what sounds like kind of a high-level topic and what they do every day in their business. So, it's nice to have different perspectives sometimes as you try to do that, because obviously, we have our own perspectives, but it's great to hear from lots of different people. So I think it's going to be terrific, and I'm excited to see what it turns out to be.
Yeah, it's either going to be totally awesome and a lot less work for everyone, or I've just signed up for way more work and it's going to be messy. We'll see.
The good thing about you, Dennis, is that you're okay either way.
I am. Messy could be fun.
You find
Look at
messy?
all the things we could learn from messy.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be really cool.
That is guaranteed. So that's the idea moving forward next season. Thank you so much, everyone who has said they'll be on the I don't know. I'm thinking of calling it the super group. But yeah, because the audience is super troopers. So I'm thinking. There we go. All right. So that's the housekeeping for today, and the weekly joke is also done for. So. Nah, I'll still make jokes the rest of the show. But Stephanie, why don't you start guiding us into this week's subject, which again is?
Letting go.
Yes.
Yeah, well, first off, everything that you talked about at the very beginning when we were wanting this show to be close to the end of the year, and, we made it part of the whole segment of slowing down. I think it's something, you're right, that we all have trouble doing. Entrepreneurs are by nature go-getters. We really want to be motors in our own destiny, and I think sometimes that doesn't serve us well. So what I'd really love to do is talk to Lisa and Robin and you, Dennis, about the ways that we can maybe recognize when we're in situations that we should try to let go of, and try to maybe figure out if there's a practice or if there are some techniques that we could use that would make that process easier. Because I think, unfortunately, we're often our own worst enemies, because we're like, well, if I just work harder, well, if I just try more, well, if I just spend that extra hour, then it's going to work out. So I don't know. I also kind of see three levels, if you will, of things that we need to let go of. There's kind of the irritation day-to-day stuff. Then, as our business grows, there are tasks and responsibilities, that we ultimately want to hand off to a team member. And then there's the big one, deciding either to close our business or to sell our business, or in some way, shape, or form to walk away from it. So I would love to hear from either Lisa or Robin or both. What do you guys think? Are there other pieces of letting go we should explore, or do we want to jump in with maybe the small ones first, the irritations and stuff like that, and figure out what we can do to really let go of that stuff?
I have Lisa posted a quote from Lao Tzu today, and Lisa, can you share that quote?
Yeah, so that quote was, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be."
Ooh,
I like that.
I like
And,
that a lot.
and in the context of what you're talking about here on these three levels, the day-to-day, just the day-to-day things that were going on in our life, and then our bigger maybe tasks and responsibilities for our business, and then big changes, big transitions. I think maybe a good starting point for all of this that encompasses all of this is to look at this piece of letting go and the fact that letting go, that you had said, Stephanie, when does letting go serve us, or how do we determine if it serves us or doesn't serve us? I think we need to go to this thing of fear, the fear of letting go, because that's a big piece for, I mean, don't you think, Robin? The fear of letting go is sort of where it all starts. And to investigate, well, why do we have a fear of letting go, even on the smallest level, those little irritations, like you were saying, Stephanie, because when it comes that point in our life when we're really questioning, should I let go of this business, or maybe I need to completely change directions in my business, those fears that were so little in the day-to-day are going to become exponentially bigger when you're confronted with a huge transition question like that. I'm not sure what you think, Robin, about that.
Well, I can tell you from my own life that after being in a software company with my husband from 1993 till 2008, when, we like most businesses, I think we have roller coasters and we have hamster wheels, right? And in 2008, he did not want to run a company anymore that had all of the concerns that a company with, let's say, 45 people has in it. And I was disappointed, and also kind of exhilarated about what could be instead. But it's taken me a long time to let go of that and to feel my way into what I can do now. And so what I've been learning is that in order to let go of something, it's kind of an identity, whether we have an identity that's keeping us stuck being small, or just kind of running along in an unconscious way, or maybe we're more aware of it. Still, there are things we have to eliminate purposely, consciously decide to eliminate those to make room for something new. So for me, the ideas that are circulating here, there's the idea of just letting go of things and being able to maybe have some family time around the holidays that's for a busy entrepreneur. And there's the idea of letting go of a past identity that allows for the present to come in, which is more along the lines of the Lao Tzu quote. So that's a lot of pieces, but I think letting go of an identity is a really powerful piece.
Well, and if you look at letting go, as you say, it can be a powerful thing. Letting go is a natural process, and I love that Stephanie and Dennis chose this theme at this time of year because we're in the fall, right? We look at the natural world is in a process of letting go right now. Where I live, I'm every day cursing because I'm having to rake up the leaves every day in my driveway. It's like, but that's a process of letting go, nature, right? You look in the animal world too, they let go. The bears go and hibernate all winter. Snakes shed their skin. Certain crabs in the ocean let go of their shells and go find new shells, you know, to live in. So you see the process of letting go happening everywhere around you if you open your eyes to it. And I think of it even like this: our breath is letting go. In every few seconds we have a release happening in our body. If we're using the breath, thinking of holding on and clinging tightly to your breath, you would suffocate, right? You have to let go every few moments, in fact. And so I know that those are abstract, but if we look at the natural world, and that's where I think Lao Tzu, it comes from, you know, in Confucianism, they look at the natural world and the going with the flow, you know, and letting go. A lot of these principles that we can bring into business are around us every day in nature. And so anyways, that's that piece, but I would love to go back to what Stephanie was talking about and dig into the business piece of this, and how does all of this relate to business, and when those fears come up, what do we do with those fears? Because it's my belief it's how we respond to those fears that's going to shape the destiny of our business for 2015, right?
Yeah.
So go ahead, Stephanie.
Before we go there, can I just ask you a question as someone who's been through, you know, a lot of different situations like we all have, and I look at how I see it now as I've been doing some of this kind of personal work and how I used to see it. A lot of times I think maybe people associate letting go with quitting or with giving up or with some sort of negative idea. And what I really loved about the connection you made with nature is that if you can see it as more of a renewal, right? Like, it's this natural process. It's not normal that everything stays the same all the time. It's great to have this process. Maybe that would help us too, just in a mindset piece. You know,
Totally, and I think what the difference between letting go and giving up is just how we frame it, right? It's a reframe of the same thing. Giving up might have more of a negative connotation and energy around it, and it might have a self-defeating, like, oh, I'm giving up. You know, as you know, I'm a runner, and you know, there have been races that I've done where I've given up because my body just couldn't go the length of the race, and I felt defeated. But had I just let go of the fact that maybe this race wasn't for me, and in that moment let go of who cares whether I cross that finish line or not. It doesn't define who I am. It's just a reframe, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead, Dennis.
well, I might be wrong, but maybe it'd be a good idea to take a look at this question here.
Maybe.
Maybe. It could be. I'm not sure.
I noticed Robin put it up as well, which means that both of us resonated with this, but maybe that's a subject we should discuss now.
I don't know which of us was saying maybe. I don't know, I can't rewind to that at this moment.
Yeah.
But I think maybe is possibility. So, you know, things may be opens up the possibility for what they can be. It also can be a, I don't know, waffle kind of a thing. So which one of us was saying maybe?
Yeah, I'm wondering that too, who was saying maybe and how we were saying maybe, because it can be waffling or it can be looking towards the future and letting go in the process of looking forward to the future. Saying this is going to happen in the future can set you up for a lot of disappointment. You know, this is what I want to happen, this is what I'm going to strive to make happen, but then after all the training, this race isn't for me. Being willing to let go. I don't know. That's actually sounds altogether the opposite of the book The Secret, but
It's letting go of expectations, right? That's a huge one. We have these expectations. I believe that expectations set us up for disappointment. So if we can just let go of expectations, because life happens. My cat just got hit by a car and I found her dead in the street. It's the last thing that I would have wanted to happen on Thanksgiving weekend with this little pet that you love so much. And my fiance had this expectation that she was going to live a full life and she was going to die in his arms. That was his expectation, you know, in that moment that I brought her in off of the street, and he's like, no, why did it happen? Like, wasn't supposed to happen like this. She's supposed to die in my arms, and I was going to, you know. So any range, you could do that with a business, with personal life expectations. We can let go. If we can let go of our expectations, we're setting ourselves up for a smoother ride, I believe.
mm-hmm. Yeah, there was two comments I want to touch on. Dave Williams is joining. He says, yes, Lisa Engles, my cancer treatment program forced me to let go of who I was. Now fear and confidence is front and center as my recovery asks me to define who I might be.
That's beautiful.
That's interesting because that, to me, encompasses a maybe. There isn't one in the sentence, but I see it myself. The other one that I wanted to bring up is from iGlobal Progress. It helps a lot. Each day I reinvent myself from knowledge gained the day before. It makes me feel chaotic and out of control, but I come back each and every day, never give up, no waffles. Yeah. We're really bashing waffles today, too. I don't know if Zara picked up on that. Poor waffles.
We may be bashing waffles.
Yeah.
You know, this brings up, though, something that we have the power to do, which iGlobal Progress is talking about, and that is to be declarative and creative with our words, to state who we're going to be in a declaration and then move toward that. That's not an expectation, but it is a way of using our power with words to generate something going forward. And I also think that the elimination thing I was talking about before, where we have to let go of something, when we purposefully say, oh, this is where I want to go, I'm declaring myself as this, and as a part of that, I am eliminating these things, is actually a really helpful practice.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that there's something that is key in the process of letting go, and this concept of what we resist persists, and this fear of letting go is that hand in hand with letting go is actually leaning into the discomfort, like some of these people are saying in our audience, leaning into the discomfort of, I have cancer and I don't know what my next day might be. Leaning into the pain and the uncomfortableness of it, and knowing in the end that if I choose to change the direction of my business, like Robin has very courageously done in the past few years, that I'm going to be okay. And not only am I going to be okay, that others around me are going to be okay too. So there's actually a poem by Rumi that's probably the most poignant, for me, one of the most poignant descriptions of leaning into and accepting this. And I'm wondering if it would be maybe okay if I shared that poem with you guys. It's a short one.
I don't know about you, Stephanie, but how do you say no to a superhero?
Yeah. I was shaking my head yes as soon as you started. I was like, don't even get to the maybe, just do it.
Okay, so you may have heard, some of you may have heard this one before, but it's by Rumi. I love it. It's called This Guest House. And this is what he says. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and attend them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Welcome difficulty. Learn the alchemy true human beings know. The moment you accept what troubles you've been given, the door opens. Welcome difficulty as a familiar comrade. Joke with torment brought by the friend. Sorrows are the rags of old clothes and jackets that serve to cover and then are taken off. That undressing and that beautiful naked body underneath is the sweetness that comes after grief.
Wow.
It's powerful. And if we can think of those things that we want to let go as visitors who've come to us into our house, and sometimes those things that we want to let go of are so uncomfortable, but if we just lean into them, embrace them, accept them, acknowledge them, they lose their power over us. And we can become curious, too, of those things. Become curious, well, what is this grief? Like, why am I feeling so much pain? Or what is this frustration about? And get curious about it and move into it. The frustration of the business that we're dealing with, or the fear of an employee letting go of an employee, or whatever it might be. Lean into it and be curious about it. Invite it. Welcome it in. Give it a drink, like Rumi says. And it's in doing that, as he so wonderfully puts it, that I think it becomes much easier to do what's natural for us all to do, which is to let go.
Yeah, I really like that. I had not heard it, so thank you for sharing it. And I just have to say, and Dennis, I think you'll agree with me, as you were reading that, I really had a feeling that we were talking about Pete Oakes. And if you guys haven't seen the show with Pete Oakes, it was a show we did about courage. And I would encourage you to watch it. But Pete, to me, that maybe was his secret, is that he was able to accept all of these extremely uncomfortable and unpleasant realities of his life. And instead of trying to fight against them and reject them and say, I just don't want to look at it, I just don't want to think about it, he let it be part of who he was, but it didn't stop him from doing all the things that he loved as well. Being with his family, organizing all kinds of amazing events, and, ultimately enjoying his life to the fullest, to the very last minute. So, wow, that's heavy. We weren't going to talk about that today, but that was really what it brought for me, and if we could do what you're talking about, Lisa, in our business, I think that would be a huge step forward. Realize that it's just kind of, it comes and goes, like you said, it's this seasonal or cyclical thing, and if we accept it while it's here, it's helping us make room for something else.
Well, I think that Robin is such a perfect example of someone who has let go of that in her business. Like she said, I mean, Robin, I'd love for you to share a little bit about your process of, the consulting that you've done and the work that the business that you had with your husband, letting go of these really big contracts that you had with, like, you guys, she's worked with some pretty heavy hitters in her realm of industry. So I'm curious to hear from you, Robin.
Yeah. When you move from having a business that's set up with product we're making and we're working with publishers like Lucas or Microsoft or whatever, and then stepping into my own space as a person who works directly with business owners, doing a lot of the things that I did inside our business or that I did when I was in the ad agency business, of helping people really collect their message and have that message spring from their deepest essence so that it's in alignment and their business is able to prosper and move forward. Having to do that for myself has actually been a really big challenge. And as I pointed out before, like letting go of that previous incarnation of myself. That's why I love that Lao Tzu. I keep talking about that. We have to let go of that, just like the trees have to let go of the leaves, to allow a deeper version of ourselves to come forth, which is our message. So it is a constant process, I think, that we all are going through. We are like the trees. We are going through our seasons. And so, yeah, that's what I have to say.
I think too that our fears, our deepest fears of letting go, come from, if you think about it, the deepest fears that we have are based around the fears of being unloved and alone, like dying. Like, go deep into it. Some of our deepest fears are like dying alone and unloved, but not only dying alone and unloved, dying alone and unloved, and not contributing in a meaningful way our purpose in the world. And when we come back to that and look at, okay, if those are the deepest fears, we got to let go of those because the truth is that we're going to be okay. And not only, this is what I was saying earlier, not only are in the end am I going to be okay, but everybody else around me will be okay, and I am loved, and I'm not alone, and no matter what I'm doing, I am living in purpose, on purpose, because that's just who I am. That's my divine expression in the world, even if we don't think that we're fully living in our purpose, because I think that so many people, especially right now, I am experiencing and seeing so many people struggling with, am I really living in my purpose? Yes, you are living in your purpose because you're moving towards your purpose. So that was a little bit of a tangent, but
Lisa, that what you're talking about is basically what the subconscious does with us all, and it is part of being human to work forward from that and to claim our true selves from whatever our early programming was. I would like to know from you, though. I know you made a big change. You stepped forward out of something old into something new, so you let go of something significantly. Not maybe, Zara. She did. So actually, Zara is calling out again that we keep saying maybe, and I'm going to be very aware of this now because it's being called out multiple times. So anyway, but about you and making your change.
Yeah, and my change happened not too long ago because I, for many years, was so afraid to let go of this niche I was in of health and fitness and health and well-being, and I knew for many, many years that my work was way beyond that. In fact, the work that I was doing with my clients one-on-one had nothing to do with health and well-being and fitness, and yet I still created my own box for myself in my outer world as Lisa Engles, the health and fitness expert, and that was a process, right, of like, it's okay if I let go of this. People aren't going to think I'm weird. People aren't, I think, the fraud thing. Oh, people are going to think I'm a fraud. That's not who I really am. And bravely stepping into it and just being who I am in that realm of visionary leaders and leadership and the work that I do with visionary leaders. So for me, it's been a recent thing of letting go of this identity. Like you said, it's like, oh, that's who I always have been in my work as a coach is health and fitness and well-being and moving forward. And I have another example of that letting go was in my mid-30s when I decided I'm stopping triathlon. I'm not going to race anymore. I'm not going to train anymore. And I was a triathlete. That's how I identified myself, and everybody knew Lisa as the Silicon Valley Triathlon Club coach. I was a well-known coach. I presented all over the nation for USA Triathlon as to their coaches. So I got really well known in the multi-sport world. And to let go of that and say, I'm not doing that anymore was very humbling. And I decided that I wanted to study music. And it was going back to beginner's mind. So these are two different examples in my life, my personal life, and then in my professional life of letting go of identities. And if you're not confronted by fear then in the process of letting go, then you're not really letting go, because fear is a natural piece of letting go, because we're releasing into the unknown and having to, it almost feels like we have no vision and walking blindly. It's just a trust. It's a trust walk.
Yeah, well, and I think you're right that maybe a big part, especially in business, of the fear is the unknown, or even worse, like you said, these expectations. You know, if we go to see a client, you know, if we take kind of a concrete situation, we go to see a client and we're going to ask for the sale. You know, that's the day we're going to lay it on the line and we're going to say, you need to sign. We could get very freaked out by the train of thought that says, if they don't sign, I can't pay my bills, and then I won't be able to keep my employees, and then my business will close. And, you know, we can kind of get in this mode where we focus on, even though it's negative, we let it become an expectation somewhere. You know, losing this client means all these bad things will happen. Whereas what I really loved that you mentioned, Lisa, and I'd like to explore it more, is this notion of getting curious. You know, instead of saying to yourself, okay, if this, then that, maybe we should just ask the open-ended question. What would happen if I get this client? What would happen if I don't get this client?
Yeah, the open-ended questioning, like you're talking about, is very, very powerful in moving through the letting go process. And specifically in anybody who's in business has to sell at some time. You're going to have to sell if you have a business, right? Otherwise you don't have a business. And I think that the perspective to come from that releases that fear of the yes or the no is, I'm here to be in service, and I'm offering, especially in the coaching world, this is a popular way to think about it, is I'm offering transformation, an opportunity for transformation here. Whether or not this person accepts it is fine, but I'm going to empower them to make the choice and not take it personally. I think that's another piece of the letting go of, if a person says yes or no, not taking it personally, because they're not your ideal client then.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, I want to jump in here. This conversation reminds me of something that I've been spending a lot of time studying lately, which is a thing called a dialectic. A dialectic is when two things that appear to be opposites exist at the same time. And I've been working on trying to be aware of when these kinds of experiences happen. And when you do start seeing them and discover, you put yourself in a position where, well, since they're both true, then, I mean, you remove judgment from the situation. You're able to let go. So an example of dialectic would be, let's see. Why am I drawing a blank? Because I wanted to pull it up right this second. Okay, you've had a day where there's been a lot of things that have gone bad that particular day, and yet there's been some things that went really good. So you've got this day that is not in any way, shape, or form mediocre. It's both a really bad day and a really good day, and that appears to be incongruent. And in the way that I used to be discussing or thinking my own mind thoughts, then, you know, I kind of had to choose. Is it a bad day or is it a good day? Well, no, it's just a day. And there was good and there was bad, and both are what they are. And that has allowed me to let it go of things that in my past would have caused me discomfort, stress, even excessive joy, just more emotion than was necessary under the circumstances.
I think that the idea of dialectic is a simplification of what's really going on. I think all the possibilities are there, and it is about reframing. Which perspective are we going to identify with? Which meaning are we going to assign?
Yeah, you know, Cheryl one time noticed something about our dog. We have a Great Dane, and because of his size and other things, from certain angles when he's going to the bathroom, it literally looks like he's sitting down. And she realized one day, and has started expressing, and I've heard her say that, but it's so true, that a dog going to the bathroom has 360 views. And depending on where you're standing, there's 360 options of what that dog is doing. And some of them could be pretty crappy, I guess. Others may not be. But, you know, it was brilliant. And, yeah. That's what you're saying, is the dialectic is only 180 degrees and 0 degrees, and you're saying, like Cheryl, there's 360 degrees.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I got to start somewhere, Robin.
No, it's good. It'll spark something.
Well, and I really like your point, Dennis, because I do think that particularly in business, sometimes we put on these blinders, right, and we limit the number of options we allow ourselves to see. And although it would be great if we could see all 360 of them, sometimes if we just start with 90 degrees, there's this, you know, or 180 degrees, there's this, or there's this, we open ourselves up, we get in the habit of realizing there are other possibilities that I didn't think of. So maybe I don't need to go into this situation with lots of fear because it can only be A or B. Maybe when I talk to this guy and I really listen, or girl, not that women can't be in a position of purchasing power as well, when I talk to this person and I offer them an opportunity to work with me and to help them, maybe there's going to be an option C that's going to come to both of us because I was really present in the conversation and I was listening to what they were telling me instead of just saying, they have to buy, what do I have to say to make them buy?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the truth is that there's an infinite number of possibilities, and like you're saying, Stephanie, by thinking that it's only this or that, that's a big, I don't want to call it a problem, but it is a block that a lot of people come up with, is they try to think about things and like, what are my options? They write a list of like the pros and the cons, and you like write them down, and these are my options, as opposed to coming from a space of there's actually an infinite number of possibilities and permutations by which this can happen. I'm just not aware of what they are yet. And then asking questions. You know, what if there was another way that this could work out? I wonder what that would look like. And then let your subconscious mind do the work and come up with the answer for that.
Okay, so on this permutations thing, I mean, the vision of the flea on the back of my dog that's going to the bathroom has absolutely no correlation to what's going on. This is dinner. I mean, that's kind of what you're saying, right? To put it into a really crude example, but am I understanding you correctly there, Lisa?
I don't know if I'm understanding your example.
Okay. It's just another point of view, another
Yes.
aspect, and I mean, you get in close enough to where you've got a flea view, then you're in this big forest, and you have no idea. Like the people used to think that the Earth was flat, you know. Their perspective did not allow them to think anything else. But that's just another perspective. It's not right. It's not wrong. It's that view.
Uh-oh.
Right. I think there is no ultimate right or wrong in any choice. It's just a choice, and so thinking that there's only one or two choices limits ourselves, and then it becomes really hard to let go because we think that there's only a finite number of choices, and that's the way it might look from our perspective. But
Yep.
is that the truth?
Who knows?
This is all, I think, a byproduct of when we're spending a lot of time thinking too, when we've forgotten that we could take a deep breath and feel our way into it and have a solution present, perhaps from the, that was my sideways, maybe, from the subconscious. I think we know solutions if we will settle ourselves and listen and feel. We'll feel a good direction to move in, so we don't have to be so spun by what if this, what if that, and preset ideas that are really those limited perspectives that we had before, like, well, it's either black or it's white. It's either they buy or they don't. Instead, if we drop down into, what could possibly happen here? I'm with this person, I'm listening, I'm tapped into my imagination, my intuition. What can we create here? And then creating a solution, it comes from a place of peace, a place of joy, a place of unhurried, a place of possibility. And I think that what we often forget in our busyness as entrepreneurs is that it's not preset, it doesn't have to be a certain way, and that the answers actually do reside inside of us. We just have to tap into them.
Yeah.
It's sort of like letting go of having to know.
Yeah.
Or it is.
Yeah.
And
Not
choosing
sort of.
to know. It's choosing to know and not to think, in a way.
Well, and I think it's also a lot of it is some of the things that we've talked about before, which is you have to be comfortable with the unknown. You have to be willing to accept this may be something I've never done before. Maybe the solution that's coming to me is not something that I've done 50 times, and I can just say to this person, yeah, and it's going to take me 5 hours, and don't worry, it's going to cost so much. Maybe it's going to require something new of me, which is scary, but trusting that you'll find a way to make it work. That, I think that's another part that gets very difficult, especially in a business where we've kind of been there and done that. Sometimes we're not really looking for new solutions. We're kind of just saying, okay, does anyone have a problem that works for this solution because this is the one I know how to do.
Yeah. Okay, we're starting to get close to the hour, and I do not want to pass without answering this. Why is it not showing up? That's weird.
You're doing something because your screen is changing size, but your image is not changing.
What I'm doing is I'm clicking on the I in Comment Tracker.
Oh, Comment Tracker's just being funny.
Okay, so do you like me better this way or this way?
The second one.
Okay, so the comment that I wanted to touch on, Zara said, please define living in purpose. I have never understood that phrase. And thank you, Robin, thank you so much, because apparently it works for you and not for me. I really love that question. I think I understand it. I think I understand it clearly. But Lisa, you have used that phrase 3 or 4 times today, and you used it a couple of times as well on the Monday show. And so I'm going to throw this to you. I'd love to hear your definition of living in purpose.
Sure. So for me, living in purpose means that I'm living my fullest unique self-expression, which goes back to our talk on Monday. But then how do we know if we're living in our unique self-expression? Well, we feel joyful and we feel fulfilled in the work that we're doing in the world. So that's a very simplistic answer of a discussion that could take another whole show. Robin, do you have a definition for yourself of living in purpose?
I sidestep the word purpose. I think it's burdened with a lot of expectations. I like the message and mission connection. I think of us like, one of the metaphors I have is we're like wells, we're deep wells, and deep down is the water, and we pull it up in a bucket and it becomes our message. So this deep essence of who we are comes up as our message. And when we're in connection with that, we're aligned with that, that feels right. It feels like we're in alignment. And when we are in alignment, what we put out there is received, and it attracts the right response. Not right response, it attracts a congruent, a coherent response. And so that's what I call in purpose. It's being connected to our core, and everyone has a unique expression of that core, like you were talking about on Monday. That's how I see it.
So let me ask you this, and I don't know, but based on, some of my study and stuff, it sounds like what we're talking about is the pinnacles of the Maslowian hierarchy. That's, when you're in that zone and you're really true to your things and you're not worrying about stuff like food and clothing and base needs, then you're in purpose. And the more you're aligned to your own needs and desires, the more you're on purpose. So there's just the overflowing of these higher values, and then it ties in tighter to what your personal higher values are, which are different from other people's. Am I getting this? Yeah.
I think that I haven't studied that quite exactly the way you have, and it feels a little bit esoteric. Obviously,
I
we all
love
have
esoteric.
these basic needs we have to fulfill, and when we're in that level, survival, it is very hard to be in touch with all those other higher and loftier things.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite able to put together with what you're saying. Can you, Lisa?
I think what you're talking about is self-actualization, Maslow's hierarchy of, which I haven't studied for a long time either. So I think that's what you're referring to, is the self-actualization part, which is a little bit, being self-actualized, I think, is slightly different than what we're talking about living your, a meaningful life. For you, what is your meaning in the world and what you're contributing to the world? And that's subjective, right? Nobody can tell you what that is for you. It's only you know that for yourself. And I go back to, I know it because of how I feel every day. Does me coming to my business every day to work with a client or to sit down and write my business plan for 2015 bring me joy? Or is it bringing me a sense of frustration? And of course you're going to have that frustration every now and then, but overall, do I feel a sense of joy? Yes. Then I believe that I'm living a meaningful life in the work that I'm doing, because one, I feel joyful, and two, I get feedback and reflection back from other people. I get wonderful emails, or someone says thank you to me, and I know that I'm having an impact because of the feedback that I receive back.
Yeah. Okay. Well, time is past. We're at the 1 hour mark. So, unfortunately, I would love this conversation to go on, but we do need to move on. So what I want to do is we close the show the same way each week. Basically, we're going to go through in this order with closing thoughts. Stephanie will be first, then we're going to go to Lisa, and then we're going to go to Robin. And just give your closing thoughts on today's show, and then I'll close up the show, and we'll go enjoy our Friday afternoon.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you so much to both Lisa and to Robin for being here. It's always a pleasure, although we haven't gotten to do it often, a pleasure to hang out with you ladies. And I'm glad we got to spend a full hour together. That was very awesome. And I got to know both of you a little better, so that's always great. And I think the biggest kind of aha, or the biggest switch that I got out of the discussion today is this notion of remaining curious. I don't know why, but it really stuck with me, that instead of having a specific outcome in mind, you know, whether it's they buy, they don't buy, they take the employee quits or they don't quit, or, you know, any of that, before we get focused on that specific outcome, if we can just be curious and say, okay, I don't have all the answers, let me ask some questions to see if I can find a solution. Not that I just have one in stock that I can whip out, but, you know, that is maybe a great way to get past the fear, because we're focused on listening and we're focused on problem solving, as opposed to, oh my gosh, they just blinked, maybe that means they're not going to sign. Which never bodes well. You know, as soon as you get tense and you start looking for little tiny signs that things are going wrong, a lot of times it changes your behavior and puts you in an inferior position. So it's something I'm going to try. I'm going to try to incorporate it as a practice and see how it goes. So I will let you guys know.
Lisa.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dennis and Stephanie, for having Robin and I here. Robin, it's always a pleasure to hang out with you. And just for holding the space for this conversation. It can sound like a lighthearted conversation, but it's actually a really deep conversation to have, and it's not easy to have a conversation if the space isn't held. And you guys held it really well, so I want to acknowledge that and thank you for holding that space. And I guess just the parting word that I would have is we're in the last few days of fall here, and this is a season in nature of letting go. So I invite you to be informed by what nature is doing right now and experience the letting go as a natural process in your life.
Okay, and Robin. Thank you so much, Lisa, by the way. We really have appreciated you being on.
Thank you, Lisa, for the poem. Really loved your presentation of that beautiful, meaningful poem, and also in total agreement that Dennis and Stephanie, you have held this space in a really beautiful way, and I feel connected also to everyone out there who's been participating in the commenting. It's been really very special. The takeaway I have is actually about fear. I liked what you said, Lisa, about actually fear being a good sign. Fear being a sign that I'm crossing a new threshold. Fear being a sign that I am letting go of something. I'm moving forward into something. That, what is it? You know, the only thing to fear is fear itself. Well, I don't need to fear that, and none of us do. We can say, "Oh, hooray! Yeah, right." But it's a good thing to set as a guidepost. Ah, I'm feeling fear. That's a good thing. So that's my takeaway.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here. I mean, You know, we talk about Network Roundtable, Stephanie and I do, as that show for the more esoteric side of business, the more touchy-feely side of business. I like to refer to it as the Zappos side of business. But Robin here.
Zappos, like the shoe company?
Yeah, have you not read about their core values? And they're a
Oh,
they're a very powerfully esoteric business. They're on one spectrum, and IBM is the other side of the pendulum. But I I think of this season, this episode has, I mean, it's a close one with the show with Pete, but I think this has embraced what it is that the message I want to get out there to the world, that there are things outside of the bottom line that are important to think about when running and creating your business. And to be successful, those things need to be implemented. And I think you guys have done a great job bringing that side of business to this episode. This is a feather in my cap, so thank you so much for pushing my mission forward so well. And next week we have Kristen Drysdale and Ammon Johns together. Kristen's our +1 superhero, Ammon's our sidekick, which means this season Ammon has been both a superhero and a sidekick, which is interesting. Stephanie, what's our subject next week?
I am pretty sure that next week we're going to talk about vision
Yes.
again, but in the sense of creating a new vision. For example, kind of what we talked about today. When you let go, a lot of times what that does is that makes space for the next thing that's coming.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, we thought that was a good way to end out the season, end out this section on effectively letting go and taking a view towards next year. For me personally, the time between Christmas and New Year's has always been rather slow with most of the jobs I've had, and that's my time to focus on rethinking my goals, appraise my goals from the year before, and get ready for the next year. So closing out on vision just seemed a perfect fit. When Stephanie suggested it, I went, yeah! All right. Thank you so much for watching, for joining us, for commenting. We love you all. We'll see you next week.